Welcome to It Happened on the Job. We are episode 17. It's our podcast for sometimes entertaining and hopefully relevant conversations with contractors. My name's Mike. That's Brian.
How's it going?
And today, how are you doing, guys?
Good, thank you.
And today we've got OP Almaraz. I'm saying that correctly, right? Almaraz?
Yeah, Almaraz. Yeah, it's all good. People hack it all the time. It's all good.
From Allied Restoration.
The funny thing is people know me like, I know the age group. If I say, hey, are you familiar with OP from Mayberry? And they say no, because that's Ron Howard.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Right? So they think that I'm a red hair and have freckles. But then the other one is I'll go into Starbucks and I'll say, hey, they asked me for my name. And I said, have you heard that song, Are You Down with OPP?
Yeah, you know me.
But you know what happens? They say no. And I'm like, okay, I'm freaking old. I'm old.
So they started it with no and not yeah.
Exactly. So thank you guys for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. No, thanks for taking the time here.
My pleasure.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your company and how you got started.
Yeah, well, so with Allied Restoration, we started in 2008, which was the time of the recession, and we didn't know what was coming, but that's what's going on. So, but I've been in the industry 15 years prior to that, and prior to that, I was the vice president of a large restoration company, and we grew that. And my little brother Victor was there with me when we grew that to about $15 million. And so he and I decided, look, man, it's time for us to start our own company. So in 2008, my parents let us borrow $80,000. And so Victor and I jumped in head first, blinders on. We went for it. And we didn't take a check home for 6 months.
Dude.
Like, he lived on credit cards, and I burned through all my savings because we wanted to make sure that we don't mess this up. You know what I mean? So we did that. And within 2 years, guys, we were blessed. We did $2 million in revenue.
Wow.
And all insurance work, right? So it's all water damage, fire damage, smoke damage, and in claims. And tragically, my little brother passed away in 2010.
Man, I'm sorry.
And yeah, thank you, man. It was a crazy, severe case of pancreatitis that just took him out.
Oh, wow.
And and so that really put us into tailspin. And my entire family counted on me, and so did my staff. And so we went back down to $1 million in revenue. And I had to figure something out. And this is why, guys, I think it's pretty relevant right now. In going through that process, it was a nightmare, and it was very tragic, but it tests you. It does test the character of who you are and what you do in a pressure cooker environment. And so by 2010, 11-ish, I had to figure out, how am I going to evolve? Because in 2008 through 10, the recession was on, and people began to spend less money on their house, or maybe not file an insurance claim. So what helped us evolve to the next level is I figured out who cares more about service and less about money. And when you think about that, you think, well, no one does. But the rich and famous do, is what happens. And so we went after the high net worth celebrity market, and people thought I was crazy. But guys, we've dealt with Larry King, Ozzy Osbourne, ex-presidents. I mean, it's incredible. But we went after that market because we knew these people, regardless of what's happening in the economy, need to be served, and they want to pay for the service. And so that helped us there. And now it feels like we're going into this other, cosmic recession, right? It feels like it's very similar. Yeah. So that's kind of our story. And at this point, we're in Southern California, and we serve clients all around our area in Orange County, Los Angeles areas.
Okay. So what's the mix now of insurance work versus that high-end clientele that you guys are going after?
So what's cool there, Mike, is that I've never changed the work that I'm getting from the insurance. It's still insurance work, but now we're going after the market that has the clientele of the high net worth clients, right? And so, but the high net worth clients right now is probably about 40% of our business.
Wow. That's got to be fun.
Yeah.
I have another guy that builds houses, and I'm talking multi-million-dollar mansions. That he's a pretty intricate framer. I mean, he does a lot more than just the normal, beam here. He does a lot of really intricate stuff.
I'm sure he's got
pretty high-end houses. Yeah, no, but the one thing where I was going with that is NDAs. Like he's a lot of his guys are signing. He has to sign NDAs for his guys that he's going into these houses. Are you guys seeing that kind of same? Are you guys looking in that same stuff?
100%.
Yeah.
When I walked
crazy, it's just a different world you got to get into when you walk into these people's houses.
Brother, it's a different world in so many ways. So we asked the client, would you like us to sign your NDA or would you like us to sign ours? And we provide them to you.
Yeah.
And so when you start speaking that language, they know that you belong here.
Yeah, you know what you're doing. You're not just
Yeah. And so but with that comes the demand. Like I love my high net worth, but they are demanding, brother. They are demanding, man. So,
service and quality.
That's it. You better be ready to step up with all your people doing the same thing too. So, yeah.
So when you guys go in, are you doing everything, or are you guys self-performing even the reconstruction too, or you just do the remediation, or what kind of? Where do you guys fall in that?
Yeah, good question, Mike. So we go in there and we do the dry out. And then if they like us to, we definitely do full construction as well. So we'll go from A to Z, take care of the whole thing. What's really unique about some of these situations, I just ran into one 3 months ago. The material had to come from Turkey. And there was a back order.
Normal, right? Yeah,
that's normal.
Yeah.
well, check this out, man. It was from Turkey, but the customer wanted it to come from the same exact quarry that the other material came from, right?
Of course,
so imagine what has to happen to navigate all of that. And the order was a little over $500,000 for the material only. And it takes 5 months to get here. So it's very unique. Yeah.
Wow. That's insane.
That is crazy. Well, could you kind of maybe expand a little bit more? So 2008, you guys had an idea that, we all know the world fell apart then too. Are you seeing any similarities between, and maybe obviously some of those differences, maybe expand on that a bit, having and owning a construction business 2008 versus today with the coronavirus COVID-19 experiment that we're going through right now?
Yeah, Brian, yes, to answer your question, yes,
yes.
100%. And so I did a Facebook video a week ago, and I shared that when my little brother passed away, there's this, and if you guys have ever suffered a death in the family or a loss of someone that's intricately connected with you in so many ways, there's this weight that comes upon you, especially if you still have to perform. Yeah. If you still have to perform for your employees and for your family. So the pressure is on, and you don't have a choice to sit there and feel sorry for yourself. Like your job now is no sleep, 100%. You better be creating, you better be innovating, and you better be executing as fast as you can. And you test everything quickly. You don't sit back and wait around and go, that's a good idea. No, you put into action right now, and those results will begin to speak to you quickly, and you course correct. And so I feel it's similar. It's not, my brother's death was definitely the peak of my life of pain, but I feel the weight very similar. Like I've got, my employees are counting on me. And if I don't course correct quickly, and if I don't take it seriously, and if I don't focus and stay in my lane, and my business has to be the number one thing that I focus on. If I get distracted, then everyone loses. There's a big price to pay, and I injure my employees and their families. And so they're counting on me so much that I'm like, I'm committed to very little sleep, 100%. And like similar to what you guys are doing with your podcast, and you guys are meeting new people, I pay mentors. To coach me all the way through, like, what are we doing this week, man? Here's what's going on. What do we do? And so these mentors have been through these storms and been through these dilemmas, where the beauty is they coach you with one sentence, bam, saves you 2 years, man, right? And so anyways, I'm committed to making sure that I do all I can for my employees and my family, to make sure that we not only survive but begin to thrive in this situation.
And I think that's key. I think there's a lot of guys and girls out there that are running businesses, whether it be construction or what, that don't have a problem with the focus and grind mentality, but it's the quick course correcting, like you were mentioning. That's to commit to be able to hey, you know what, to be able to recognize quickly, hey, this may not be working. Let's figure something else out before you get too far down that road, past the point of no return. So yeah, I mean, you got to, like you said, you got to balance those two things, right, evenly, to kind of stay ahead of things, especially kind of the way things are right now.
And I look at both of you guys and I'm like, you guys look like a pretty solid team where you guys can bounce things off each other, and then you could tell things go into place pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I'm equally privileged where I've been able to grow 3 top leaders with me. And so we're on the phone every single day, multiple times a day. And at this point, they get me, right? They've been with me for years, and they're like, okay, what are we doing? I'm like, boom, we're going to go this vertical. Here's what we're going to do with our advertising. Here's what we're going to do with our messaging. And then 3 days later, guys, we switch. Cool. Right. Hey, we're going to put that aside. Let's go here. And they get it. And now you're able to move quicker because, man, right now, guys, speed is everything.
Yeah.
You've got to get to market quickly with whatever you're doing because, I was educating myself back in February on coronavirus, and I thought I was ahead of the game, whatever. I wasn't being arrogant about it. I was just like, oh shit, I got to dig into this thing. And now everyone's in it. Every one of my competitors are in, and they're doing what they have to do because they have to also survive.
Right.
But we have to be on top of our game to make sure that we're not only working and grinding, but we have to innovate. Like creativity has to be part of what people do. And so I've got one of my leaders, they're 24 years old, believe it or not. I'm awesome. 51 and I got 24-year-old. Like, I'm like, let's talk about something. Like they have all the ideas, man. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not too proud.
No, that's awesome. So I know before we got on, you were mentioning that, things have maybe slowed down a little bit from the insurance claims standpoint, but you also mentioned that you'd gotten into another vertical, I guess, if you will. So kind of expand on that a little bit, what you're doing there with as far as the cleanup and the sanitation. So
100% of our work has come from insurance claims for many, many years, all the years that I've been in the business. And we relied on that. And what I loved about insurance is that regardless of the economy, we still have claims. People still have claims in water damage and mold and fire. But what's happened now is so many people have lost their jobs, right? And so now there is an economic issue where before they file a claim, they'll think twice and say, ooh, do we have the $5,000 deductible to file the claim? And they say, shoot, Marsha just lost her job. Maybe we don't. I'll just fix the drywall myself, is the conversation that goes on in the narrative for the homeowners. And I don't blame them. I mean, I would do the same thing, The other thing that's coming that I see is a lot of people are working from home right now, right? And so 2 things are happening. They're home and they're watching, they can see the leak happening, and so they stop the leak, right? And so now there's no need for a claim because typically the Mr. or Mrs. Jones, they drive home from work and they walk into this flooded house and go, oh my God, we got a flood. Well, now they're able to see the flood before it becomes a flood, and so there's no claim. But the other piece that's going to happen is people are staying home, but some of the companies that they work for won't make it. And when they don't make it, now those people will become unemployed, right? And so we're going to see more and more waves of results and things that are going to happen. And so for us, we've had to course correct quickly because the claims volume has dropped.
Right.
And so back in February, I thought we need to get OSHA certified to be able to help and clean and disinfect COVID-19. And so we were certified 3 weeks ago, and we've been now marketing to the end users and to business owners that we can clean. And we've done some cleanup jobs that like Easter. They called us on Easter and said, look, I need to open for tomorrow on Monday. Can you come out today? We ran out there, gave them a bid. My guys are working all day, all night, got them taken care of, and off we go. So we created a new vertical of work to be able to make sure that we keep our people busy, right? And guys, I invested up to over $80,000 to this point to learn how to do it, to get the supplies, which, as you guys know, even the hospitals are lacking supplies, right?
Yeah.
All the materials, everything. And so we're all in to help and get things cleaned up, but we had to course correct quickly. And this is what I mean about when you make a decision, you got to move quickly. And sometimes it's a costly financial investment you have to make.
Yeah.
And you go for it, right?
But I mean, if you commit to it, like you said, I mean, now you're at the point where you can do that kind of stuff, and that work's going to be there for months, if not years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's going to be there for a while, unfortunately.
Yes,
but so I mean, and you're probably one of the first to kind of get in on it. I had the same conversation. In fact, it sounds like I only have one client, but this is the same guy that I was talking to about the NDAs. He called me, right when this thing started, early March, and he said, "Hey, Mike," because obviously we write his insurance, and he said, "Hey, looking to get into this, that, and the other." And I said, "Well, kind of explain that a little more." He's actually manufacturing hand washing stations and eye washing stations, kind of putting them together in his shop, piecing them out and then putting them together in his shop and delivering them to job sites as a service. And so you just want to make sure, obviously, from an insurance standpoint, that he was covered. But I thought, what? How brilliant, right? Like, he's probably still got quite a bit of work going on because, you're still finishing out jobs and they're still going on. But he's kind of seeing further down the road and just like, this is going to be something because right now it was, hey, like, let's get this on the job site because people want it and to feel safe. 2 or 3 months from now, it's going to be required. There's so many things that are going to change from an OSHA standpoint regarding all this stuff, not only from training, but from a sanitation on the job site and so many other things that now he's way out in front of this, you know what I mean? And he's already got a foot in the door for the guy that brings these hand washing stations, and he's going to, start off a whole new DBA and be delivering these things. So it's like you said, being able to kind of see it and pivot and make an adjustment and adapt and commit to it. Like you said, is committing to it is big.
And seeing the opportunity, man. I love that. I love stories like that. And another thing that I would add to that, Mike, is how intelligent he is. Okay, because look, it's one thing to be innovative, but it's another thing to be reckless, right? Because people go in there and go, "Oh, I'm going to go do it," but he called you, right? He called you,
right?
And that is a wise person managing risk.
Yep.
Manage risk. And so for you guys, and so we called our broker, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm about to jump in. Am I covered, right?
Yep.
Am I covered with my employees or with the consumer and all that?" So you guys are in a really, really cool position because if we contractors do not manage risk, it will wipe us out.
Oh, I mean, one bad claim can wipe you out. Can bankrupt a $10 million company. I mean, it doesn't matter how big you are. One bad claim can.
Yeah.
And the beauty is, one phone call to you guys, one phone call to brokers is all it takes. Is a phone call and say, "Hey, look, you are covered," or, "Hey, you know what? Let me look into a policy." Boom, you put it in, and now you can go and print money, and not have to worry, right?
Yeah. So I have a contractor that does he does graffiti abatement for the city of LA, and most of his money and income, they're nonprofit, so it all comes from grants from the city and the state. It's all government grants. Well, he saw an opportunity to start delivering meals to the less fortunate. And so now he's got grant money because he's same thing. He called me yesterday, said, "Hey, Mike, I got employees driving cars, doing this and that and delivering that. Am I covered?" "Yeah, you're good. We figured it all out. We're good." But just same thing. Another revenue stream where, I mean, the city's probably not spending a lot of money abating graffiti right now because they got so many, their hands in so many other baskets right now. Busy. Yeah, so he found another way to kind of keep his employees busy and keep making money. It's why, I mean, they're nonprofit, not making money, but enough money to keep paying their employees. Yeah. It's crazy.
That's awesome. And look, man, I mean, I'm just thinking about your guys' business. And if I'm you guys, I'm like, I'm hitting every single person that I know who I work with now. And I'm saying, hey, look, innovation is absolutely key. And as an entrepreneur, you're probably innovating and you're thinking about what you can do. But look, one of my mentors told me, he says, look, if if you had a question to ask me and you said, hey, can I ask you one question of how you did it in all these years of making hundreds of millions of dollars? He says, the one question that I wish people would ask me is, how could I best manage my risk? Because he had to pay the price, right? By going off and doing these things and then being sued later for not having the right insurance or not being, having the right things in place. And so, I would say for anyone who is innovating out there, go for it. This is your time, 100%. But don't forget that when you innovate, if you don't do it right, it's called recklessness. And now you put your family in danger and you put your employees in danger. Make the phone call and do the right thing.
Yeah.
So,
and that phone call doesn't take long. It could take maybe 10 minutes, maybe 5.
Big time.
Yeah.
Well, and the funniest part is the second story I told you about the nonprofit guy, the addition of the payroll or whatever that he was using for the prorated premium was $47. So he's a guy that, I mean, his nonprofit probably goes through about 20 something million dollars a year in work. And this addition cost him $47.
How funny, right?
It's funny stuff. So kind of let's go back to the business side of it a little bit. From an employee standpoint, where you guys find it? Because it sounds like obviously you guys got to have pretty, employees with high integrity. Obviously, you got to be able to trust these guys going in and doing the high net worth stuff that you guys are doing it. So where you guys finding them? How you training them? To get them to where they are? And what's that process look like for you?
Yeah, good question. So throughout the years, there's been a bunch of different ways that I've tried to hire, but the one way that is working for us, and someone will have to convince me to do it different, but it's for many years, I've been hiring people with no experience. No, I shouldn't say no experience. No industry, no insurance restoration experience.
Right.
Construction experience, yes. But I find that people that have been in our industry have so many bad habits that I've got to it's tough, man. So I've said, that's enough. I will train people how to work in the insurance world. I just need other specific things like, do you understand construction? Do you understand how to read plans? Do you understand how to communicate with people? And so here's our process. We go on Indeed, we put an ad, and then the ad is automated to say, cool, let's do it. And this is crazy, right? Because we did this months before coronavirus came out, but it's like, hey, do a virtual interview. So the questions on the screen, and they're clicking the record button and they're giving us their answer. So we can see how they're able to articulate right away without us having to invest all the time and energy to sit down with a human being and set an appointment. Now we get, 15 of these in a week, and we're able to kind of go, okay, cool, we understand and we see. The other aspect of it is once they pass that, then we do a face-to-face. And then if we like them, then I send them to a psychologist.
Interesting.
Now, this is a kicker. Have you guys watched the show Billions?
No.
Okay, you got to watch it, guys. And I think it's on.
Like HBO or something, right? Or
something like that. Yeah.
One of the two. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that show there, guys, it's really cool because they have a psychologist already on staff, and when the employees have questions, they go talk to her, and she boom, she straightens them out, man, and they walk out of there and they're like, I got this. And so it's a powerful situation where she empowers the employees to go and be who you are, and don't let this mind game win. And so so for me, I've been with this psychologist myself. She's my personal counselor, right? I got a divorce, guys, probably about 7 years ago. And through that process, I needed to talk to someone, and she's helped me evolve, and she's helped me evolve in business too. So about 2 years ago, I asked her, I said, can you come in and talk to my staff on how they can manage their own stress in their own personal life? And so she comes in, guys, every single quarter. She talks to my entire staff, and they love her because she's able to give them some very good tools, and she's able to talk to them and kind of coach them up. Yeah. So when we interview someone, I let them know, hey, don't be intimidated. Okay. You're going to go talk to my HR lady, right? That's what I want to call it. So they sit down and it says, that she's a counselor, and they're like, what's going on? So she calls me after the interview, and she never tells me to hire or fire. She just tells me, here are the facts about the individual.
Right.
And so when I have that information, she's able to understand, going back to the psyche of what builds us all, which is the childhood and all these different connecting the dots. And she'll let me know, here are the strengths and here are some concerns. And for this position, here's what you've got. And so that is the key component for us to really make a decision to hire someone, because I'm going to invest thousands of dollars in training the person. So I don't want to lose all this money, man. I'm tired of doing that, right? And most people are sick and tired of, like, I just spent, 8 months training the person just leaves. And so we had to understand that the problem was in the hiring, right? The problem was in the hiring. So we had to figure out, what else can we do to make the entry to our company even harder, but in a way that once they come here, boom, they stick.
Yeah,
we built a really cool culture.
Well, it's funny. We've been doing several of these shows already, and there's been a few common themes, and we were talking about that actually before this show. One being which, people are looking to find integrity and character prior to hiring somebody.
More so than experience.
Right, more so than it could, because a lot of times they can develop bad habits. But you are the first person that we've actually spoken with that actually hires or brings on a psychologist. I think that's incredible. My wife has a psychologist she sees very regularly. We're all about mental health and all that. And it's funny, you have circles, of influence in your life, and you think, okay, we have psychologists here and we have work here. I never thought about marrying the two together. Oh, yeah. That's incredible. That's very cool.
It's powerful. And look, I would tell you guys as entrepreneurs, you guys have an illness just like me, right? You're going, right? And so your spouse sometimes gets you and sometimes they don't.
Yep.
And so I take my spouse with me, and I see our psychologist every 2 weeks, and we sit down, we have very candid conversations, and it's really cool because it's a safe place for all of us.
Yeah.
And my wife can say, she'll tell me ahead of time, hey, babe, I'm going to bring this up to Rachel. I'm like, please, let's talk about it. And so, look, most of the time, it's the entrepreneur that has to course correct on how he can make his spouse feel more special, or that you're actually present. Right. And so I have to be coached that way, because I'll fly off the rail, right, thinking I'm doing good because I'm the provider, but I'm not connecting. Right. And that's the part that we as entrepreneurs have to get. We have to make sure that our partner who trusts us feels connected to us. Right. So it's a very, very important piece that I'm glad that we smashed them together into business.
Well, so what you're saying is, my buddy, who's also a producer in this insurance space, who was on the phone while his wife was giving labor, that's probably not a good thing. Is that
you see? This
not
is
me,
the stuff,
not
dude.
Me,
not named names.
Not me.
They're not with you, right?
You know the guy.
But the producer's like, dude, I'm doing this, and this is okay. This is okay, right? That's how we do it, man.
Well, and I got to imagine too, at least, I mean, you're meeting with prospective new hires, you're giving them the lay of the land of what to expect. And when they go meet with this person, I think there's probably some safety there. I could see probably some intimidation initially, but you're breaking that down and knowing, hey, this is a private space that I could speak with this person. And at the same time, the brilliant side of it is there's the true character that comes out of that meeting, I imagine. And it sounds like she's doing a really good job of not bringing her judgment in, but rather, here's the facts. Here's, pros and cons, and this is what I see. And then you're able to make a more informed decision. That's incredible.
And Brian, that's a good point, because the judgment, she does not judge. And so for anyone listening to this, if you decide that you're going to bring a counselor in, I think it's very smart to do so. You may have to interview a handful of them to make sure that your staff feels safe, right? And so because she doesn't judge, they feel safe. And here's what I'll tell you guys. One of the things that she does when she comes in every quarter, when there are some issues with some of my employees, she'll say, who are we going to have one-on-ones with? Because we'll have a group conversation. Everyone will feel great. And I'll say 3 people. because there's some misalignment maybe.
Right.
We'll have a get together, all three of us, right? And what Rachel does is she says, hey, Cindy, tell me about what's going on. And Cindy feels safe enough to say, well, everything's fine. And then Rachel will go, no, I'm not believing that. Is OP doing this? Or is he supposed to be doing this? Is he doing that? And she'll say no. And Rachel will 100% railroad me and say, look, OP, you've got to be, and she'll lay on me, and it hurts. But at the same time, I know it's good for me, because just like my personal relationship, your employees need you too.
Right.
And we don't have, we sometimes miss the connection of damn, if I just spend 1 hour a week having a conversation with that employee, that's all that she needs to fill her cup.
Right.
Man, I need to make a mental note of that, And so, but it makes the employees feel safe. And so that's a great point of that situation, because when there's no judgment, then they know that they can share.
Yeah.
And I think the key too, or the key takeaway is just the amount of investment that goes into, the hiring. Just because, I have, my personal book is 100 plus contractors, and I can't tell you how many of them, we get into a situation where they have a problem employee, and it's like, well, I needed somebody, and my one guy who was on the job said he knew a guy, so we called him and got him in, and he came in and he worked, and then filled out the paperwork at the end of the day, and that's their hiring process. And I totally understand that construction is very cyclical and very wave-like, and you never really know when you need 3 guys versus 33 guys. So it sometimes can be hard to manage, but putting deliberate effort into the hiring process is going to save you so much for it. And I just think that's a huge key takeaway into for anybody else listening out there. You don't need to go as it doesn't even need to be as involved as you. I think there's a guy that hires the guy, lets him work, and then fill out the paperwork. There's what you guys are doing, which is just, I think, all the way top level. But even somewhere in the middle there, you're gonna end up with a stronger and more loyal and more dedicated workforce.
Yeah. The other thing I would add is my ads are always on. I never pull my ads off, ever. I hire every single month, 100% always hiring. And this is the key, guys. I don't wait for someone to get sick or someone to quit. I don't wait for that.
Yeah.
I will stack on 3 more people than I need, and I will tell them, hey, you guys are new. I'm going to take you through the training process. We've got 4 more people there, and here's the deal. At the end of 90 days, all I need is 1 of you. Straight up.
Yeah.
Guys, I don't mess around. I'm like, this is a great opportunity. Okay, I need 1 of you. And so 1 of you is going to perform more than the other. And if there's a close number 2, then I'll figure out a spot for you too. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to be very straight with you guys. Let's go and let's perform. And man, I tell you, 2 things happen. Number 1, that potential employee, they might say, hey, no, I thought this was going to be guaranteed full time. I'm not willing to take that risk.
Yeah.
And now you know.
Awesome. You just saved me a ton of time, right?
Yeah, and money.
Because I need people that are all in.
Yeah.
And so then the other thing is, when you hire more people than you need, the existing staff that you have are like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
I better continue to up my game.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we had the same situation. I ran restaurants for a long time. And one of the smartest things anybody ever told me, and luckily it was early on in my career in my restaurant management career, but I was told by somebody, you should always be looking to replace your bottom 5%. So if you've got a certain number of servers, as a restaurant, I got a number of servers and they're begging for shifts because we have a lot. It doesn't matter. I'm still looking. I'm still hiring. And if you're that bottom 5%, you're either going to get phased out or you're going to see the writing on the wall and you're going to leave on your own. But, if you get comfortable, then everybody gets comfortable. And like you said, there's no drive to be better because, my servers always knew somebody walks in the door. If they're better than you, they're going to get better. I don't care how long you've been here. We're always looking to replace our bottom 5%. So if you don't want to go, don't be the bottom 5%.
Step up. Yeah. Hey guys, right now there are so many opportunities to hire people because look, there are some companies, I know 2 companies. One laid off 50 people 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
One laid off 20 people 3 weeks ago, right across the board.
Are these restoration companies?
Restoration companies.
Okay.
Yeah, well, one restoration was a plumbing company.
Okay.
And there were different parts of the United States. But think about that as a contractor. You have quality people out there right now, unemployed, because the owner, for whatever reason, had to make the decision that he made or she made. And now imagine that there was a manager that was managing millions of dollars of processes and procedures and employees. This guy's not unemployed, quality person that you can pick up, right?
Yeah.
And so I would encourage all the contractors, place your ads, hire even if you don't need people, and take them through the process. You may be like pleasantly surprised to see the quality that's out there right now.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's huge. So kind of stepping back and stepping outside of what some people have described that we've talked to as this social experiment that we're in right now. What are some of the things that you guys face? And when I say you guys, you and your management team, on a day-to-day or a week-to-week basis that kind of challenge you guys, or, you know, the hurdles that you guys have to get over?
Yeah. So, man, having everyone work from home, that's a tough one, brother.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm pretty good in my management style, but dang, man, I can tell you that what really bothers me is I have to realize, and owners have to realize, productivity is likely dropping.
Yep.
Yeah.
With your employees. And like, you got to admit that, because look, I'm at home right now. If that door opens up, right, my wife or someone walks in, like, I'm now, my attention's over there, or if the dog's barking, or if the child is crying, the distractions are everywhere. And so we have to realize as business owners, shoot, we're losing productivity. And so now the frequency of us checking in must happen. Right. So I have one of my staff members who manages the entire office. She's checking in with the office staff 3 times a day. And one of the things that we do, guys, is there's ex-mentor, his name is Chet Holmes, and he wrote a book. It's called The Ultimate Sales Machine. And in that book, he talks about this daily 6. In the daily 6, he says you've got to list out the night before all the most powerful things that you have to move as far as the boulders for the next day. And so all of our staff has to turn in a daily 6 for the following day. And it's the 6 biggest things for them to win the day that they have to accomplish. Well, now, as we're managing them from a distance, we have to focus in on helping them accomplish those big boulders so they don't get distracted. And now the big boulders, and only 2 of them got done because they were distracted. So it's a lot more management, guys, that we're having to do. That really is I think that the piece that I did not account for. I thought we'd be okay, but I'm feeling like, oh shoot, I can feel it. I can feel that we're being distracted.
Yeah. What's that method for checking in? I know you said you have your office manager checking in 3 times a day. Are they just making phone calls, emails? How is that? How does that work for you guys?
Good question. So no, they're Zooming. It's a Zoom call, and in the Zoom call, they are asking. This is towards the end of the day. What's happening? I think my connection is a little unstable. Towards the end of the day, the conversation sounds like, "Hey, what was your win for the day?" And we have them share what their win for the day was, the biggest thing that they felt that they accomplished, and it opens up the conversation to say, "Cool." And now, like, there was a conversation yesterday. All the Zoom are recorded, and I got to peek in, and I can see, oh shoot, this is really good, because it opens up the lines of communication. We have to realize that our employees have to continue to speak to each other. Right. If they're isolated away from us, man, it could turn into a whole different situation. So we have to connect intentionally more frequently.
What's the morale like with your group, not only from the office staff that maybe is having to learn a different way to communicate and process, but also, the field guys that maybe are seeing the work slow down a little bit, and so how are you kind of managing those 2 things? Yeah.
From a morale standpoint, we also add to our Zoom calls every Friday. We have we call it happy hour.
Yeah.
Right. Every Friday at 6 p.m. It's not mandatory, but you can show up if you like to. Some people have a glass of wine, and we're just having conversation, right? And we all get to see each other, and let's just talk about life. You know, what's going on with you? What's happening with your husband or your wife or your kids? But from the morale standpoint, you know, I also coach other restoration companies throughout the United States, and I share some of the statistics that are happening around our industry. And so when I share with them that someone just let 20 people go, I tell them, look, people have been let go. More companies will let more people go. We have just invested over $80,000 to make sure that not only we stay relevant, but that we find another vertical of work to do, because we will not let up. We'll continue to innovate. We'll continue to invest. But I need you guys to also step up. So I asked this question, guys. I said, right now, I need marketing to be at its peak. So even though you're not in the marketing division, you're answering phones or you're doing filing, who has 1 hour of a spare hour in their day that can help us commit to making these marketing calls? Who's got a spare hour? And every one of my employees raise their hand. I do.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, yeah. And so now we gave a list to everyone. We're like, go get it. We gave them a script and like, let's go make some stuff happen, right? Because together we want to be able to thrive, right, and not become a statistic of losing, you know, market share or shutting down a business.
Right. Kind of taking another, I guess, step back. You had mentioned before you had 3 specific leaders that you were talking about. If you could just expand on your leadership development with some of those employees that, you know, may start low and kind of grow through the ranks, if you could kind of expand on that as well.
Yep. So here's how I did it, guys, is I sat down with my entire staff, and I already had a vice president, but I knew that I needed more people that I can rely on. So I drew out the organizational chart on the whiteboard. Okay. And this is what everyone can do. They can draw the organizational chart, have a meeting with the staff and say, hey, from this position where the manager is to the position here where the employee is, in between, you draw a bubble and you say, I'm looking to fill these spots. And these spots are leadership positions. And the leadership position is going to be someone that is directly connected to me, that is directly going to be with me once a week, and we're going to talk about high-level things on how to be able to engage staff, engage employees, and really be part of the process of the thinking of what the company as a whole is doing. And the job of that leader is going to be motivating employees below them, teaching employees, and then being accountable to me. And what that's going to pay is it's going to pay you an extra $1. That's it. That's all you get is $1 to be in this leadership position. That's the only extra pay you get, but you get connected to me and we will talk about high-level things. Now, if you're interested, Mr. Employee, I need an essay from you as to why you should be considered. And then I need in that essay for you to let me know why you think or how you're going to motivate and inspire others. How will you do that? You're not going to have the authority to fire anybody, but I need to understand what you're able to bring to the table and why I should consider you. The interesting thing there, guys, is that I got probably 6 different essays in. 2 of them, I had no idea people were even interested. Had no idea, just out of left field.
Wow.
Right? I'm like, holy smokes. And I love that. I love seeing that.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised when you try that too, for you contractors. But in addition, there were some people there that I thought for sure they're going to apply, didn't want to be a part of it. I'm like, holy smokes, right?
Well, yeah. Instead of point, you get people that want to do it, not necessarily just promoting the guy or girl that's been there for the longest or has the most knowledge and maybe doesn't want to, or maybe doesn't have the, have it in their gut to lead or inspire. And instead you're getting people that are motivated to do it that way.
So true. And I think one of the mistakes I've done, and maybe some other contractors too, is that you say, oh, that guy's got experience, let me put him as a manager. Okay, that's like, the technician does really good, but he doesn't know how to manage people, right? But we think you can manage people. No, sometimes if the people are honest with themselves, they'll say, I don't know, I want to be responsible for me, not for all those other crazies out there, right? So we did that, and then we were able to then see what was going on, and I'm like, cool. And I pulled in some people, and now we meet once a week. I train them at a higher level. What my mentors train me, I train them.
Yeah.
So they're getting high level thinking, and they're able to implement that in my business and also implement that in their personal life as well. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that's a great way. I mean, and like you said, you're developing people that want to be there and want to do it, which is going to, my assumption is that it's going to expedite that growth process, and that because they want to be there and want to do it rather than trying to force somebody who maybe doesn't want to.
Yeah. And especially, go ahead, brother.
I was just going to say, I feel like you've created a culture of people that not only want to be there, and it creates longevity, I think, and some trustworthiness, especially
controlling their own destiny,
right? And knowing that psychologist can slap you aside the head, and knowing that they're not under the employ and, whatever they say. But at the same time, you're creating opportunity. And I think there's some excitement. I went to USC. USC football is in my blood. I grew up, my parents went there. My dad and I, 15, 20, whenever Pete Carroll was there, we would go to these Monday morning quarterbacks, and his, he would kind of do his speech, his rah-rah speech to all the alum. But his biggest thing was, we compete forever. Meaning just because you're the starting quarterback doesn't mean that you're always going to keep that starting quarterback position. And you had guys like Matt Leinart, Carson Palmer that played under him, won Heisman trophies. And you had these guys every year fighting for their jobs because they had 2-3 guys deep that were just as talented, if not more at points. So it keeps that, but it's still healthy. You know what I mean? So it sounds like you've created that space for these guys to come in and say, hey, I'll make $1 more, but I get an opportunity that I'm not going to get anywhere else, and I get to move forward in that. I think that's really cool. There's a lot of things I feel like we've been talking about that are common themes that we're hitting, but we're taking it another step here in terms of what you're talking about. So
yeah, and when I say $1 more, I don't mean per hour. I mean, I gave them literally $1.
$1 a year.
Now, the crazy thing, what you just mentioned right now about Pete Carroll and we're always competing, is even though people get to this place of leadership, it's not a place to land. It is the place where you need to continue to evolve. So I had to pull someone off 3 months ago, right? I had 4 people, and I'm like, we're down 1. You are not stepping up. We've been talking about this, and this. You're not leading people. You're not doing what you're supposed to. And I've been course correcting and coaching this person individually, but for some reason, he wasn't in gear. I'm like, with all due respect, brother, I need high level players. And so let's bring you back down. You don't fit there. You fit here. Let's keep going. And so as a leader, you have to continue to make sure you protect the culture. Yeah. You have to protect the culture, because if the rest of the culture sees you playing favorites or letting something slide, then they're going to know that, okay, he just or she doesn't care.
There's no point. Yep. Yeah.
And that doesn't have to be a negative conversation, right? I mean, that's just a real conversation. Hey, look, you were great here. You may not be so great here, but you're really a huge asset to our company in this position, and this is just where you're going to be, and keep busting your butt in this position here, and that's.
And later we can revisit it if you're interested to join us again. Let's talk about it. But you know where you need to improve, so let's work on those things. Yeah, and look, the leader has to have uncomfortable conversations and be willing to have them. I think that's one of the most detrimental things, is that we abdicate those conversations to someone else, right? Oh, hey, manager, can you have that conversation? Like, no, the leader must have and lean into the uncomfortable conversations, because otherwise no one's going to understand you, and they're going to think that, okay, that person just doesn't care. Right. But as the leader of your company, especially now, everyone needs to know that you are obsessed about the company, obsessed about performance, obsessed about what everyone has to do to deliver, so you keep market share. Because someone's going to, as the market begins to diminish and the competition starts to go away, and you have other behemoth companies that are scaling at a rapid pace, in order for you to stay relevant, you've got to make sure that you keep your people in tune all the time and have those uncomfortable conversations when needed.
Right.
So where are you headed next? Let's go to the future. What are you guys projecting out? What do you guys see for the future? I got to imagine you got something
You talking about money, or what are we talking about?
Anything, man. What's the future for you and your business look like? What do you guys?
Here's what I got, man. And I mean this with as humble as I can be. I don't like to be arrogant at all. I thought that my goal was going to be $50 million. I thought that's what it was going to be. This was back in January. And then I met with my mentor and a group of other business owners that play at a high level. And one of my mentors said, hey, look, there are things that you're doing that another company that does $100 million, he or she has the same 40 hours in the week or 8 hours or 24 hours in the day, but they're doing different things. So we have to understand that by doing different things, we'll get a different outcome. The time is the equalizer. So what am I doing with my time that is allowing me to get to 50 million or allowing me to get to only 50 million? What are others doing that are like at 500 million, at $1 billion? What are they doing with their time? And it's like, oh shit. And I began to expand my mind and allow myself to go there. So my goal is $100 million by 2025.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. And so
awesome.
When I put that out there, guys, I understand that I have to be doing $100 million moves and being around people that are at that level so I can continue. Like, there's a big gap between us right now, right? And I've got to stretch myself to get to this place, and I have to do things that are uncomfortable and do things that I don't know how to do, but I'm willing to do them, man. And I this is where I feel like, some people believe in God, some people may not, but I feel like we were created and put on this planet to perform at our highest level. And if we do not, it's an insult to our Creator. If you've been given the gift to play at a bigger level and you don't, shame on us, man. Shame on us for not expanding to the best that we possibly can be. So that's my belief there.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
That is very cool. Yeah. I mean, kind of piggybacking off that, I heard a speaker say probably 15 years ago, he asked the question to a group of us and he said, what's the wealthiest plot of land on the planet? And nobody had, people had different, Newport Beach, right?
Yeah.
And he said, no, a graveyard, because there were so many unspoken dreams that never made it because they weren't willing to go there and they just vanished, gone, done. So I hear you on that. In terms of being respectful of the gift that you've been given and moving forward and working hard towards that.
Yeah. Let us not be guilty of that, man, right?
Yeah.
Of being one of those in the graveyard.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, hey, part of that, I think I sent you a question in terms of one of the things we like to ask is to kind of keep it light, fun, crazy
following
story.
up the graveyard.
Sorry, I took it there.
That's right.
But any kind of interesting, mind-bending kind of stories that you guys have been involved in?
Assuming they're not going to violate your
no NDAs. You don't have to worry about that.
Well, the people that I've mentioned so far have allowed me to say their names, so that's why I'm comfortable saying those. But there are some that, working with the high net worth is very interesting. And so here, okay, let me just share this. Here's the crazy thing. I interviewed Larry King's assistant at the time. She's no longer his assistant. But she allowed me to interview her because at the time, I think that was probably the 10th high net worth claim that we had. I'm like, there's something going on here that I don't understand, that I need to understand. So, can we sit down and interview you? And I paid her some money. We sat down, we recorded the whole thing. And she said this. Here's the situation, OP. When they had a flood, a franchisee came out, and the franchise company, she said, I got this weird vibe, and then there was this really high price they gave us, and I thought, you know what, you guys are just trying to take advantage of us. And she says, when you showed up, I could tell you're professional. And it was the booties, and it was the non-disclosure agreement, right? She's like, okay, you guys understand the space. And she says, here's the thing about the community of the high net worth is that we take pride in paying more money for the service than we do finding the best deal.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy, right? So they had she's giving an example of like a neighbor across the street got an air conditioning bid and it was like $40,000. And then there's conversation among the rich people there when they're having coffee or drinks, whatever. They're like, oh, I paid $65,000 for mine. And there's bragging rights, man. Like, this is what's going on.
But he brought me coffee every morning. So I was okay paying the 60 grand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So and I'm like, okay, hold on. And she says the lowest bid is always thrown out. Always thrown out, right? So for you listening, contractors, don't be the lowest bidder. Do not, especially when you're playing the high net worth. She said they think that you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Or you don't value what you're doing.
Yeah.
Or you don't, even greater point, you don't value what you're doing. And so, so that was kind of mind bending for me because we began to list like, what are the top 5 concerns of the high net worth? And one of the things that she mentioned, or a couple things, she says, number 1 is time. They know they're not going to get it back. So whatever you do, better be fast. Do not interrupt my time with my family or with my business, whatever I'm doing. So time is number 1. And the other thing was privacy, especially for the celebrities, right?
Yeah.
But money was way down on the list.
Well, because they have it.
It was crazy, man. Yeah. So for me, I kind of got a kick, and I had to expand my mind and go, man, like, you know, people brag about paying the most money, and where I'm from, you don't brag about stuff like that.
Right?
You feel ashamed of it, right? So that's kind of one of the big changes for us that we had to wrap our minds around.
That's very cool. Well, OP, thanks for coming on the show today. I really appreciate having you.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's been
my pleasure, guys. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, if you could just kind of let the people know where to find you, and whether it's a website, LinkedIn, whatever, how to get in contact with you, and
you got it. Yeah, so we're in Southern California. It's alliedrestoration.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I actually just completed a TEDx talk in November where I talk about you saw it? Good. Well, I talk about the process is you know, my evolution with friggin' life so far. And the message there for me was, you know, I wanted to impact as many people as possible to know that regardless of what we're going through, even this COVID-19 stuff, we can make it out of this, right? But it's a decision first that we have to make to decide that we can do more. And so you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, OP Almaraz. Look me up, friend me, and let's connect.
Awesome.
We appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
All right, gentlemen, my pleasure.
It's been fun.
You. All right, take care.
Have a good one. Thanks, sir.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. And if you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.